Welcome everybody, I'm Jason Jeffries, the planning director. Thank you for coming out. What we'd like to do is we want to keep this on time. We want to be out of here at 8 o'clock. We've had several meetings already today. So if you all can take your seats. And this is a steering committee meeting, so right now, the steering committee's here up front, and what I'll do is turn it over to Vicki so she can call it to order.
Hi, thank you everybody for coming. This is our opening session, and we appreciate you being here. We have the steering committee, and we have the design firm DPZ Co-Design are here. But I just want to say thank you for coming, and I'm going to turn it back over to our planning director.
I'm looking for Andres. Like I said, this the meeting is, we'd like to have this, it's a very interactive session. That's what we've been doing. The workshops earlier today were on very specific topics. You'll see that throughout the week. On City of Vero Beach is our whole series of meetings. The workshops are designed to have very specific topics. The evening meetings are, and like today's is this is the opening presentation. It's a Charrette orientation with early summary of design ideas. So we're very preliminary in their design. And Andres is going to take it through, get your feedback in terms of design. And this meeting is designed that the steering committee can participate. It is a publicly noticed meeting. And also, as community members, the community is welcome to come up, ask any type of questions, give your ideas, get feedback on the design through, as Andres goes through this process. What we'd like to do, just so everyone can hear everything, is if you have a question or you want to participate, you got an idea, is you come to this podium, present your idea so we can, everyone can hear it. With that, I'll turn it over to Andres.
A technical question. Do we need to turn more lights off so that we can see the slides?
Yeah, I'll turn those off.
Is that all it takes?
It's our only option.
Okay. Well, where did I stand? Where?
Maybe one more. Okay, so how many of you have been to any one of these meetings today? Well, about a third. Okay. I warned you that they're inevitably repetitive because things don't change. I mean, I barely had a chance to drink a glass of water before the last meeting, but I do go back and people keep working. So things become more fixed. Also, the staff that's in charge listens real time. And when they're listening and they're drawing and so forth, so it moves forward. But it moves forward very little between meetings. What I would suggest is that just for the rest of the week, which you're continually here, just come once a day, and there'll be enough change, okay? So those of you who are leaving, I won't take it personally. It's going to sound like what you just heard. One of the aspects of this, the boring part is the background is always the same. But you will notice that actually I may actually contradict or go back on something. And that's because we always have a proposition very, very early as we can that you can get your teeth into. But if it doesn't work with you, we back off. Okay? What we do not do is to tell you, this is too early to tell. If it's too early to tell, then you're just disempowered because you have to wait. So at any one time, I can say, this is what we would do. If this is the last day, this is what we would do. But don't worry, because we're flexible the entire time. So this site, my laser pointer is in my briefcase. And I'm not going to be able to trip over the mayor, I think, if I keep coming over here. So this is my laser pointer. Okay, this is a very special intersection, east-west, north-south. It's not just any other bridge. And it also happens to be empty. I think the excitement is that such an important intersection is actually looking for program. It's looking to be programmed. This amount of land somewhere else would mean nothing. It's just where it happens to be. It also happens to be in one of the few places in which the beach and the land of Vero Beach have a chance to come together. One of the things that I find most gratifying and kind of surprising is that the different places, which are really so different from each other, are not manifesting themselves in opposition. Believe me that when we go to other places in which the Yankees arrived and the immigrants later or something, they haven't forgotten for 200 years that they're different. They're still fighting each other about it, oh, you got the good land because you came first. Somehow this isn't happening here, although demographically there's every reason that each side is different. What's interesting about this bridge is that you can actually come together. Now, the site is very large. It doesn't seem to be, but it is. And it's not a number of acres. The acres don't tell you anything. If I say 28 acres or 34, it doesn't mean anything. But what you should know is that this site, the entire of historic St. Augustine fits there. From the great square to the north, where most of the historic buildings, including Flagler College, it all fits here. So we have a very large site. And as a consequence of this, is that every idea that you have come up with, we are able to accommodate. And I think you didn't expect that, because we had a 2-month period in which 6,000 people or 7,000 signed up with ideas. 2,000 gave their ideas, just by rating a series, and then another 600 actually wrote up their ideas. And every one of them that came up actually fits. So we have a problem, which is this. There is no need to say, I don't want that, because actually you're not losing anything else. It's not like remember, most sites is either this or that. If I get this, I don't get that. You have to get over that, because here, the problem is really how do we make all these different ideas actually harmoniously and make sense on the site, which easily it couldn't. It's going to take a lot of skill to get everything to work. The problem that we have, and by the way, even the allocation of the ideas is easy, and I think you all should actually begin to understand this site as it's not that difficult. It's a waterfront site, but only if this is the north part, this is the South Bridge. This is the northern part. We call this N1. N1 actually has a very strong feeling that you're on the water. Okay? N2 doesn't. It's already too far from the water. N3 is actually industrial. And it's all about this building and everything that's there now. And then 4, North 4, is all about the highway. And it has nothing to do with this. Okay? So yes, it's a waterfront site, but really a quarter is the waterfront site. And we have to have ideas for all the others that are not waterfront ideas. Now in the south, there's a very beautiful canal here that has been overtaken, regrown with mangroves, and is actually quite charming. And that south one, it's very special, already. South 2 are these 2 very large domes that are actually used to store clean water. So they don't even have a history of being a sewage plant. It's actually clean water. And they're magnificent structures. They're big and they have a round top. And this one, which we call S3, is an industrial piece that doesn't inspire you. It's a bunch of little tanks and bridges and pipes and every which way. And I spent a lot of time on it, and I just can't make out any use for them. It's just what it is. It's just a very complex industrial thing. And then over here, we have S4, which is, if anything, parking, again, or highway use. And then across the way, there's a little bit left over after FP&L got their transformer station, right? Transformer? Substation here. There is about 1.5 acres left on this corner that actually has very little to do with the others. It seems to be proximate, but the highway is just too big. It's a channel of the kind that you really don't want to cross. You really don't. And there are quite a few streets you don't want to cross in Vero. I cruised around here, the railway track and everything, and it's not a good feeling when the street is too large. So when we having that as information gives us it allocates everything. So let's go to the we have a list of all the things that are most popular. There it is, okay? And actually, these are the things that we heard, and we put them out, which are the most popular. In order, environmental sensitivity, parks and open space, dining and restaurants, right up there. Dining and restaurants, 87%. Entertainment, 85%, obviously it overlaps. Youth programs, 81%. Tourism generation, that overlaps everything. Event venue, economic development, education, shops, revenue generation for city, marina boat docks, then down, no development, which you think is usually at 90%, is only 32% here. Hotel is 30%, offices and residential units are the lowest at 14%. Okay? And then we opened up for your ideas. What are your ideas? And it was very similar. Your ideas ended up being very similar to the given ideas. So we have a clear mandate about what can be provided, and also what's not so popular, but even the least popular fits. And what we did have, the internet's overrated in terms of creativity. Actually, the meetings we've had today, the 2 long meetings we've had, people have come up with really precise, more creative ideas. Okay, from the old boat launching to the unprecedented cat cafe. Very well programmed cat cafe. And by the way, I told everybody, yes, you could do it. Actually, yes. It all fits. Okay, so here we are. I'm not exactly sure, am I supposed to talk about this now? Why don't you show, just keep going. Okay, no, just one thing about the plant. I have to make a case for the plant. It is unpopular, and you can't think of it as what it looks like now. That's just a very thin sheet of metal that can become something else totally different. It actually happens to be, if you look at the blue, it's actually just a very beautiful color with the Florida. My feeling is they really knew what they were doing in terms of the color. In fact, this is a very popular color now, the aqua. So even this, and I do know that the plant would be reclad in the future, but actually it's worth keeping that metal perhaps for roofing the other smaller structures that we're about to propose. These are very slim chimneys, which of course are unnecessary, but maybe they could become masts for to hold canvas sails for perhaps a restaurant or a bar on the top deck. So the basic attitude towards these buildings is it's expensive to take anything down, it's expensive to dismantle, and why not use it creatively? So the basic idea we have towards everything that looks relatively good is to keep it. I'm not exactly sure what's happening here. I think they're remediating the land. I haven't seen this slide before. They're remediating the land, right? Is this what we're...
Andres, I think that's when they were taking the tanks down.
Okay. And hopefully they're remediating, right? I was told it was clean. Anyway, while the controller has said that in the sale of this utility, the city has acquired $21 million, which is available for this if you wish it to be available. We're starting $21 million ahead, but and of course hopefully it doesn't need a lot of remediation because that just goes underground. So we're starting with a basis. The first meeting this morning was economics. I want to get to that. If the project is not paid for, pays for itself, it isn't going to happen. And this project has to be voted upon by you, or all of it has to be voted upon by you, the citizens. Very clearly, you have to vote on it. And people are very loath to provide their taxes for basically anything. And one of the things that the controller said, and I really pressed her on this, I said, why aren't you worried? And she said, because we have $21 million. What I'm actually worried about is the ongoing cost of maintenance. You know, maintaining, keeping it clean, keeping it policed, keeping it healthy, killing the no-see-ums, whatever you do, I don't know. But there's a lot of stuff that is costly because this is a very large piece of ground. Think of it as a kind of St. Augustine that has to be maintained. So we have to talk about ongoing maintenance. And So when proposals are made, I say, what do you contribute? I also think, by the way, can you take over the maintenance of this? I'm trying to get in the proposals we make to have the entities that actually take over pieces to say, now, oh, okay, you can do that, but you have to take care of the programming, or you have to take care of the security. We're definitely trying to take it off the burden of the taxpayers. Okay, next. We got some permission to build. How can these slides possibly be so bad? What can I do? Really? I don't even know what I'm looking at. But anyway, okay, let's just keep going. The space is magnificent. Okay, the space inside the convention center, it was a great aha moment for everybody who saw it. It's a magnificent space that has real value. The view is magnificent. And by the way, we can cross underneath the highway. And actually, the underside of the highway is very nice. Not all undersides are nice. This one is. And we did secure permission to put roads through it and to store boats. What we can't do is put permanent buildings underneath. The other side, which is the one that cuts? Okay, the other side. Sorry, the other side. Go to the next slide, in other words.
No, that was it.
Okay, so there are, as I said, these are basically goners. There are two interesting tanks here, and we'll see what we do with that. Next. You've all been to see it. Next. Next. This is across the way. This is what's available. Next. I'll go back. I do need to remind you how miserable this highway is. Okay, it really is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars that are actually not paying attention because it's dangerous and boring out there. You know, a pedestrian is a problem. I, by the way, did some crossing today. I noticed there's some cool car shops across the way. I'm a car guy. It was very unpleasant to get to it. In fact, somebody said, "Are you lost?" Next. This is the drawing that shows, I believe, St. Augustine, right? Is this the one? Anyway, it's a whole bunch of places. We overlaid them. This is St. Augustine. Okay, St. Augustine, we're going to relay it. Next, I've already spoken about that. The amount of engagement per month that's been going on, and it's climbing every day. It started immediately the first day. Engagement was at the tops. By the way, this is very unusual. More people engaged than voted, for the last election. So this is, at this moment, fully democratic in the sense that it's got a very high proportion. Now, as a consequence of this, as a consequence of my knowing over the last 2 months what people were thinking, we already started having ideas. So we began drawing immediately this morning. We didn't wait, okay? And so we're able to show you some ideas. Next. This is what I just read out to you, the pros and cons. I mean, the most and least popular. Next. Now, one of the most intriguing, I think this is maybe the only drawing I'm not sure that we actually got, was this drawing by somebody on the beach that shows from the road to the water, two great kind of low height, low tech market buildings. And I think the implication is that you walk between one and the other, and on the sides are all the programs you want: the restaurants, the sailing clubs, the incubator spaces, the farmers markets. All the program that is flexible gets accommodated in those buildings at relatively low cost. It's like Fanning Hall, but much cheaper. And also one thing, I would hope that we get to build the kinds of buildings that if it floods for 4 inches, you hose it down and you're in business. Not something that's going to delaminate because it's high tech when the water hits it. So, the old Florida kind of building. Instead of just raising everything on stilts and then having ramps and elevators everywhere, the kind of building that used to be, in Key Biscayne, they used to be called, how did you survive the hurricane of 63 and 58 and so forth? Oh, I live in a house that can go for a swim. And what happens is they didn't have insulation, so it didn't mildew. They just had concrete block in and out, terrazzo floor. You hosed it out, got new furniture, and changed the electrical outlets. And didn't even hardly needed insurance. And so that's the kind of thing in Florida that actually may be something. I mean, there are buildings that legally are like that. Even now in the International Building Code, you can call something a camp. And as long as it doesn't have glass on the windows, fine. There's one in St. Augustine in the fishing dock, you'll see. Wonderful building. And I said, how do you build this? He said, oh, it's a camp. It's just a loophole in the code. Once you get glass, the government lands on you. Without glass, nobody cares. So imagine this, okay, very simple old Florida buildings that can actually, built with good. I think we need hardwood now because pine isn't what it used to be. But permanent buildings that are not very expensive. One of the things that I sometimes forget to say, that to incubate businesses, particularly those of young people who showed up earlier, is the space can't be expensive. They need to actually begin on a very low burn rate. Without subsidy, but on a low burn rate. So these low buildings, at least, would be specifically designed to be inexpensive. Next. So, I have a team here of skillful designers, about 6 or 7, and I did my sketch. And the sketch that I did, this is the northern part, this is the power plant, right? And I did a straight run down here to this kind of harbor, and it was just what you saw in the drawings, except that it ended on the sailing club, right? The civic building was the sailing club, and then it turned over and it had restaurants on this side. And I'll talk about the restaurants later. One of the designers noticed that there was an existing road that actually had that trajectory, that had this nice curve. And he said, hey, that's cool. Why not actually make the buildings take that bend like that? And then on the other side, we'll do that. Also, it's not one single building, right? It's a series of smaller buildings. And then at the end is the sailing club. You gave us the program of the sailing club. And it has perhaps a tower at the end, to watch the sailboats, but also to terminate the vista. And then the sailing club wanted a restaurant, which they had inside and in the second floor. One of the worst ideas you can have for a successful restaurant is to have it on the second floor in a kind of other building. So we pulled it out, and it forms the first building here. And then there are 3 other restaurants at different price points. This is very important. Americans don't hang around anywhere where there isn't food or drink. And that's why a lot of parks fail. Like, why don't they reuse the park? Well, where's the food and the drink? I mean, they'll go visit, but they need that. And because the demographics are so diverse here, from extremely wealthy people on the island to the average household on the mainland being $49,000, and many of these people having kids, if lunch isn't $4.50, they're not going to come. They've got to have a grilled cheese sandwich for $4.50, and then other people need a grilled cheese sandwich they must have, and they must pay $12 or they don't go. And then other people with yachts who now actually need a destination to crank up their boats, but go way north and way south to find restaurants. Several have asked me, you've got to have a place for us to go. So this would be a more high-end restaurant here. Okay, so this is something that happens in, for example, Disney is very careful about this, which is the restaurants are at different price points, so you have a diverse population. If you don't do that, they all converge on very expensive or on very cheap. And there are places in Florida where every restaurant's terrible and cheap, just nothing but fried food, and then other places where it's expensive. This has to be managed in the lease that you write with these operators. I expect that these buildings will be owned by the city with leasebacks with terms. And I would suggest that your lease, just the way we do in the town centers that we design, that you actually have a very, very clear clause that if you're not doing your job, if it's not good quality, we just take it back and you're out. Okay? And I would say that probably 50% of your tenants you're going to have to take back. That's how it works. And there's one in Florida, the one by the Port of Miami, the very elaborate one by the port called Bayside. They didn't do that. They didn't have the ability. So when people were just melting down with mediocrity, they couldn't take it back. And for years, there was terrible retail there. And then finally, they got it back. So if you go to Seaside or Rosemary Beach, where retail is great, it really, the lease is very contingent on excellent performance. Okay? And I do think that actually with the $21 million that the city has in the coffers, they can certainly afford this. This is way less than $21 million that you got for the sale of the utility. So then we come over here, but I hope you, okay, let me actually go here. So, let's start. This has 3 entrances. The first 2 are much too close to the intersection, causing, particularly when they have more use, it's going to cause chaos. We took the last one. The DOT cannot ban you, cannot prevent you from having an intersection there. Because every lot has a right to an intersection, and furthermore, every lot, this is the furthest you can get. So we have that intersection. So you come in one way like this, and this is the parking in this direction. I have X number of cars. If it's not enough, we will build 1 deck. Just 1 deck, not a parking garage. Very inexpensive to build 1 deck, because the first deck is just asphalt. Right, so we have 1 deck like that. You come in, you drop off, or what? There's a drop off here, and then you go out that way. Super simple. Okay, like that. There's also a service road that takes you through. But this other side would also have a separate entry. So we split the traffic, okay? I don't think the DOT can stop us from doing this because we're enormously improving the performance of it. So this is the parking where it should be near the road. And here we have the building. The building, I can show you, the building has something that's like a cathedral. Huge, magnificent space. And I mean like a cathedral. It's that great. And that is a space that's worthy of a really great program. Although the one that's most desired is a conference center. And I've heard anecdotes about you can't find a place that's large enough, you can't, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We haven't got, we can't meet. And for evidence, look at where we're having this glorious charrette. This completely out-of-date building, and we're always moving out of it because people are coming to play cards. So you are undersupplied with conference facilities. I mean, it's very clear with this event. So we maintain the void, and I'll speak to you about it. And then there's a kind of sandwich of small decks with a lot of machinery, really complicated. Okay? You have it? What is it? Okay, so this is my sketch. This is the long hall. There's this deck of complicated machinery. Okay, and what we're proposing is you take this, leave all the machinery in place, just build a wooden deck like a basketball over the existing. The machines stick up about this much from the ground. You still have an enormous ceiling. Inexpensively build a wooden floor. Okay, and just clear that beautiful space out. Here, where all this incredibly complex but really cool machinery is, don't attempt to tear it out because it's going to destroy the whole building. It's going to be a mess. Even if somebody takes it out for you, and there's an offer to take the Latin America, what's left behind is chaos. And it's not a usable space because it's too low and too deep. Okay, there's no light. It's too low for an office, it's useless. What I would do is put a glass wall here and a glass wall here, clean it and light it and leave it like a museum piece. Okay, in here. And then finally put a hallway and actually build 100, we put a notional hotel here with about 120 rooms. And the 120 rooms would run, the idea of the 120 rooms is that they would actually, as a condition of being there, they would run the conference center and build the parking and maintain the security and integrity of the whole park. So part of the deal here is you get it, it's a wonderful deal for you, but this is your backyard. You're going to maintain it. So it's not your policemen and your people raking and everything is theirs. Hotels are accustomed to this. Okay, so it's not out of the question. The other thing about these chimneys is the rooftop is a magnificent view, which is not available anywhere else in Vero because you have a height limit. But here it is at 60 feet. And that height limit now, these days, in the last 5-10 years, rooftop restaurants are now, again, extremely popular. Best restaurants in Miami Beach, best restaurants in our new towns like Alice Beach and Rosemary Beach are all on the roof. You know, that's just so cool now. And so you can put an elevator in, a couple of stairs, and you can actually have just the front layer where the chimneys are. You can put canvas, just, you know, these canvas sails, you've seen them, that actually justify keeping the chimneys, although you can clip them. You don't need the full height. You can clip them if you wish, but it's just money. Clip them, you can also leave them and get it, you know, paint them a good color. And you can have this, and then somebody would suggest that the vast roof in the back would be solar panels. You know, so that there's very little cost to the building, but because you're keeping it in place. There's a floor, and then you re-facade it. I would suggest that you keep the metal, which seems to you very uncool, but it's actually very cool, because it's a very, very fashionable color. Just look at Benjamin Moore this year. That aqua, and use it to roof the little buildings, and then you have history and a color. Oh my God, can you believe these roofs are, you know, from the old power plant? But the power plant will completely, you know, with a good architect, the power plant will completely lose the look that most of you don't like and become a beautiful building. By the way, it's only 60 feet tall. It's not even big. 60 feet is what? Okay, 60 feet is, what's the width of this room? It's more than 60 feet. I mean, can this be true, the 60? Is it really true it's only 60? It's not tall, it's just ugly. Because this is more than 60 feet here. This is probably 100 feet, or 80 at least. So with a facade, it just becomes part of the landscape you love, okay? So there's that idea here. Next. And this is the thing I showed you. Also, an interesting thing happened today. I was walking out here with the card players, and a nice lady comes up to me and says, what we need is a domino park. We need a domino park. And I thought of the Cubans in Miami playing dominoes, which takes about this much square footage. And I said, sure, you can have that, sure. I'll just remember to put it in. It's about the size of a dot, okay? So I go in and I'm joking with my crew, and I said, they need a domino park that's the size of a fleet on this site. But they misunderstood. And actually, Brooklyn built a domino park, which is actually the domino factory.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember it? Do you guys know it? And what they did is they took the industrial machinery, which is fascinating, and actually built with pride by our ancestors, okay? These aren't like, you know, hostile creatures. You know, these are built with pride with your ancestors, part of the story. You pay for it. Your ancestors paid for it. And why not deal with them with love? You know, like they did here, they painted them light blue and everybody loves them. So this gave us the idea. So anyway, my crew misunderstood the domino park and gave us the idea of actually turning everything into a virtue. You know? Now, there is you go to New York now, and there were young people, not too many now, but there are young people who always, it's the same story, we need a really cool place, I'm coming back, I love it for the kids, but there's nothing to do. Long story, you'll hear it 10 times, I'm tired of it already. How do we get the young people? And the young people have a different taste culture than every generation, completely different. We are, I think the people of Vero are very comfortable with your town. Okay, it took me a while to understand, but people would grab me and say, leave Vero, Vero. Keep Vero, Vero. Okay? And I walked around and I said, what are they talking about? This is just a normal place. And then I realized, I realized that what it is, it's a very comfortable place. You know, and I was thinking, I told you the story already, that there's a poet in Colombia who writes about Cartagena, which is the most beautiful city, and he says it's as comfortable as an old shoe. Okay, so I think what happens, my hypothesis, is that, yeah, your old shoe isn't that good looking, or that sharp, or that fashionable, but it's really comfortable. I have shoes like that, okay, they just sit there and I love them. And my wife will eventually request that I get rid of them. But this is a very comfortable town, I see it. It's very comfortable, and I think this should remain as it is for you. But you shouldn't prevent the evolution of what's happening culturally. And what's really happening, actually, I think most of you would really enjoy it. And the coolest look now is in Chelsea Market in Lower Manhattan. And what they did is they took an area, a market with no character, They brought in a lot of old steel with rivets, all rusty and, all that. And they gave it a lot of character, as if it were an industrial building. And they turned it into a market with cool restaurants. Go see it. It's Chelsea. It's Chelsea Market. And you know what it's called? Steampunk. I was looking for the name. Steampunk. It's an old steam engine. And it's jokey. But what you have here is an industrial look that is intrinsically appealing. I think that a really cool hotel operator, some of them, like there are 2 or 3 brands, that they would actually recognize this old facility as an incredible asset and leave it. What?
Like the Charles Street Jail in Boston.
Yeah, is that another?
Yes.
Yes, like that.
And
Yeah,
as far as the roads.
yeah. It's steampunk. There's something real about it. Anyway, I think if you ask the Hampton Inn to come in, they will say, "Well, really? No, I'm not going to do it." But we know what that's like. Like I almost died of boredom in my room after I checked in. And I know that that's what Hampton Inns do, they're comforting. But the young people are different. And I think that actually we could turn that, I know we could turn that into a real asset and get a really cool conference center and a really cool hotel there. Okay, so this is evidence. Now, these are 2 tanks, okay? They're sitting there, they're clean water tanks, is where it's stored. And I couldn't help thinking that they even have a dome on top. This is the shore, right? This is looking east. And there are these 2 tanks of different lengths. And I was thinking how much more beautiful they are than your city hall. Which actually is, particularly the room, I think is horrible. The lighting is bad. Everything about the roof gives rise to a lot of contention, which is unnecessary. Architecture has consequences. If you torture people with bad light, bad roofs, tight people, lobbies that don't work, democracy doesn't work that well. So we're thinking, what if this, now go back to that thing. What if we actually built a glass wall between the 2, which is the lobby, a kind of porch like this. Okay, show me the plan next. This is just a sketch. So this is the first sketch. This is the town hall. These are the bureaucrats all the way around. This is a joke. This is at the library at the University of Virginia. They tried to pull it off on me by Thomas Jefferson. So this is not really, does the architects recognize it? This is Thomas Jefferson. Anyway, but over here is more serious. This is the town hall in the tank. So you have glass and you have a porch facing both ways. Next. Do we have more drawings? Okay, here's a 3D drawing. Now what I would do is, first of all, this is beyond cool. Okay, like, oh my God, those shapes, how cool can you be? And especially if you know that these were old tanks and so forth. But here's where I think there's so much space here that you can probably get a lease back situation from a developer. Say, okay, you build this thing, you can use a lot of it, we have an excess space, and just lease back the town hall to us. And so then you have an ongoing cost, but not the big hit of an investment, which is very difficult politically. By the way, when I mention these ideas, it's not my job to kill ideas. It's your job to kill ideas. Okay, it's my job to bring them to life. When I hear an idea, I do everything possible to bring it to life. The best renderer, the best thinking, the best presentation. My job is to bring it to life. If it doesn't fly, that's fine. The plan works without it. Okay, so don't worry. Like if the idea of the hotel if it doesn't work, the plan also works without it. And I promise you that there would be 5 plans, right? One of them is absolutely do nothing. Just leave it, mothball it, let's see what happens. One is do this but not that. Another one is put things off, etc. But you will have a choice clearly of plans. So it's your decision. But I will bring every idea to life that I can, including some ones that I don't agree with. There are ideas that I don't agree with. I still draw them up and do my best. But right now, we haven't had any reason or found a place not to have them. I'll give you one. For example, the boat launching ramp. Okay, I understand. I can make that work. I can draw it. Everything possible. You own the right of way in that canal. It's doable. But I can imagine people saying, "I don't want that there." The neighbors don't want it. Then all you do is pull it off and say, "Fine, we're going to do the rest, but not that." Okay, so that's really what you'll be seeing here. But you won't be seeing me kill ideas. That's not my job. Okay, next. You're going, now, across the way. There is a great, you know what, there's a curious, this is backwards, I think. Okay, this is backwards. This is that lost corner. The best idea for that corner until just a few hours ago was a parking garage there. I don't particularly like it as an idea, I would draw it. I know exactly the capacity of that corner. I don't particularly like it because it's very hard to cross. You know, you park over there, really far, and then you're supposed to take a bridge, which if you're not in the level of the bridge, you're taking an elevator up, over the rat run, okay, and down the other side. We have many of those in Miami, nobody takes them. They're just sitting there, they cost tens of millions of dollars, nobody takes them, they're running across US 1. And it's almost like kindergarten in planning school. Don't do bridges, people don't use them. Now, in the snow in Minneapolis, yeah, on a bad day they'll use them, but not normally. So I'm against it, although I'll draw it for you. But at the same time, this is a commercial place of some viability. So we also drew a shopping center. Just so somebody would buy it from you, from the city, you make some money, and then you expend it on the other side. You know, it's an income stream that helps the other part. So this is an out parcel. You know, that corner is an out parcel. Then I remembered a conversation I had right at the beginning. I had dinner with somebody who was in the school board, and she said the biggest problem we have with people coming back is the school teachers who come back and we can't keep them. And she said, because we don't have housing for them, our good young school teachers are recruited by the adjacent school districts. So they just come here and pick them off because they have housing, and we don't have housing. So we recruit them and we lose them. Now, I think that's when you say, I was asked by the elected officials, think of the whole county. Outreach not just to the residents of Vero, but to the whole county. This place belongs to the whole county. So I have an understanding that if we have the capacity to solve a problem you have, which is you're losing your school teachers, and by the way, your cops get even less salary than your school teachers, which is pretty amazing. Your cops get less salary than lower salary than your starting school teachers, and then these are the public servants. So I'll say, why can't we get this site, sell it to a developer, on the condition that they make affordable housing for municipal employees, period. Only municipal employees. And that would be a tremendous benefit to the city. I haven't got a better idea for that corner. If anybody has a better idea, I'll draw it, but I don't think there's a better idea. And actually, they live pretty close to an exciting place. There's nothing better than having a cop nearby. You know, it exterminates crime, actually. Many trailer parks actually have school teachers and cops, and that just cleans up, you know, because they know the policeman lives there. It's not that this is going to be crime prone, although, by the way, any public space that's attractive at night, that's open, with berms and trees and places to be behind, is a problem at night. Again, that's always been known, regardless. I mean, in heaven, they have the same problem. Okay? And heaven is, of course, Portland, Oregon, where they have the same problem all the time. And so that's been tested, and I would say that actually we will be careful insofar as possible to keep this place safe at night, but these places are not naturally safe unless we actually have what are called crime lights that are extremely unpleasant, you know, because they just reveal everything, but then the neighbors hate that. And it's actually not particularly good for retail anyway, so we have a problem. We actually do need to get, for example, my preference would be that hotel to clearly manage the whole square, because it's in their interest to do it well. I just got off track here because this is a 3-story apartment building for actually municipal services. And I'll draw this because it's an idea that was brought up, and there are other ideas, but I would like you to know that I think this is the best idea. Next, you have a terrible need. Okay, keep going. That's it? Okay, so what has this been like? The people come in and they bring up certain, the usual negative comments, some of which are, I think, absolutely necessary, which is who's going to pay for this, and I'm glad they did. I felt at one point that I was the only person asking that. You know, who's going to pay for this? The reason I was concerned is that projects don't get built if they're not paid for. So I was always trying to maneuver, and I have real confidence in your financial officer, if that's her name, to actually know what she's doing, okay? But she did say clearly, we have the money to build it, but not to maintain it, okay? That's as of this morning. The second problem that comes up is one that I have to confront right now, which is what about traffic? Is this not going to make the traffic worse? And the answer is absolutely yes. The traffic is going to get worse because of this, and it's going to get worse even if we don't build this project. Because in the history of traffic, it has always gotten worse. It has never gotten better. Okay, so anybody who says that traffic's not going to get worse, it's just a waste of time. There are lots of consultants you can pay that will actually try to convince you that it's not as bad as you think. But it doesn't matter because this is an open system. So long as the county, for example, you can argue that Vero Beach has not grown since 1980. It's the same population since 1980. So theoretically, there shouldn't be more traffic. Unfortunately, the county has grown from 0 to 183,000. And Florida has tripled in size, and the nation has doubled in size in my lifetime, and that's the traffic. It's not our 10 little restaurants here that are going to cause traffic. It's the whole system is based on traffic. Okay, and there's no exemption from that. And so one of the things that I pushed back very hard on is I said, yes, sir, this, you know, because he wanted me to put me on the defensive about traffic. No, there's no defense for traffic. It's horrible and it's going to go worse. Okay, so that should not even be on the table because it'll just eat you up and nothing will, it has no effect at all. So when somebody says, this will make the traffic worse, the only honest answer is yes. Okay, don't mitigate, don't apologize. Yes, it's going to get worse. Okay, can we talk about something else? But the traffic's going to get worse. Didn't I tell you it would get worse? Believe me, don't engage in that thing because there's no answer. It steals the public argument. It makes you stupid. Everything gets stupid when you talk about traffic. There are lots of other things that this can do. And so I just wanted to deal with that. But mostly, oh, there's one other thing. 2 or 3 people say, I don't want that. And my answer to that, I don't want that part. And I said, but somebody else wants it. And you know what? We don't have to choose because there's enough land. So you can get your thing, and they can get their thing, and the third thing. So we don't have to really choose. It's a very large site. In fact, we're looking for more ideas because this entire area here, we can't even fill. By the way, I invented this program. This was an invention of the town hall, right? And then there's this, which is left going. So we have much more land that we can accommodate. And my preferred suggestion for this is that you leave it. It's going to come online 5 years from now when it's removed. My preferred suggestion is that you mothball it until the later generation decides what it needs. And the world is going to be different. You know, they may not be at all like what we're interested in. You know, and you can speculate, but this century is moving very fast in all sorts of directions that are unprecedented. And I would just leave this open. Although a gentleman came in today and said, can we have a kind of university here? An extension university, you know, of the new kind that is virtual. And I said, well, now that's an idea. So yeah, but right now we're looking for ideas for this. And I think that's the presentation we can discuss now. Anything you want.
What about your adjacent property owners?
North and south.
North, south, and the Valley Bank Trust, have they given you an opinion about what they want?
They have, well, we're going to meet with them specifically. I believe 2 gentlemen have come to see us about here, and they requested that the light and the sound be kept low, which is to be expected, and we have 2 technical answers. You have to understand, we do very large communities with very, 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 very expensive houses that have light and sound. Okay, it's not just here. You know, we did Windsor, but also Alice and so forth. But we did 2 ways. Because music is a solvent that brings people together. If you want to bring people of different ages and different incomes together, music does it. The old way of doing public music is loudspeakers at a distance, like that, right? The new way is to put a grid of wires on top with tiny speakers, just slightly above your head. And so you get all the music you like, but actually each speaker is very low. It's like a radio, pretty close to you. So the way you deal with that is that, plus of course the usual, nothing late at night, that kind of thing. But also you can keep public music down loud, pretty low cost. The second thing is lighting. Public lighting is only necessary to not trip. Okay? You don't have to show whether your haircut's good or that's no trip. What we did in Alice Beach and Seaside, we have very low lights very often. And then we make white sidewalks that have quartz. So just in the moonlight, they shine. They're white quartz sidewalks. It's a mix. Even if you don't have light, you know where you're walking. But actually, the tiny lights you have light it up. So they're what we call dark sky lighting. And it goes straight down. And we've been doing that since 1980. So there's okay, this is not a stadium, and it's not crime lights, but everything would be lit very low. Okay, so I think those two are not going to be a problem. The standard problems are music, light, and traffic. And I think we can solve two and not the third. And so when we meet with the neighbors, we will actually be able to talk to them. Now, this canal, if you want a boat launching ramp, it would probably be in this canal, right? The canal to the north. I'm sure the neighbors won't like it. But this does belong, this is a right-of-way, belongs to the city. Okay, it's like a road. And it is, if the city wanted to have boat launching, it could probably do it on the basis that this is a right-of-way. If this were owned by the HOA, you couldn't do it, but it is public, so you should know that. I'm not enamored of the boat launching. I think you can drive somewhere else and do it. But if you wanted, and I'm going to draw it in. I will draw in the boat launching. You can cut it later if you want. That's the other thing.
The problem is the trailers.
Yeah.
Totally.
The trailer parking
Is
takes
it-
4 times the space of a car.
Exactly. It's a disaster. I know.
And you need the maneuvering space.
And I know. It's terrible. I know. It's an industrial use.
And you've got a boat launch right across the river anyway.
I know. Yeah, I know. Why? This makes so much sense. Like, why don't people get it? There's an argument that they don't want to walk, that they don't want to drive further, but I think that's dope. That's dopey because you're already in your car. Right? It's not. Okay. So that's kind of the argument. That's exactly the argument I give. There's also this here, this very nice mobile home park. And of course, they'll be happy to have the power of this gone. But we will be meeting with them to see what their concerns are. In fact, we do have one proposal. There's a natural crossing here. If you look at our plan, which isn't good enough there, there's a natural crossing here, east to west. There's an axis and a cross-axis. The cross-axis brings you in to all sorts of cool stuff. It's possible to give them a bridge. That's an offer. And they're going to say no. But what they don't understand is that actually being close to these places increases real estate value. It just increases it. We want to be close to such a place. And we're just going to make the offer. I'll make my best argument, leave it open. And once you see what happens here, you may really want to bridge over. So you don't have to come all the way out, which by the way is only done by driving, all the way out, all the way over and back. That bridge is actually a potential offer. I'll make the best case, in case you think I think it's a terrific idea, but I'm sure I'm going to get a no. Because who has ever had a good idea in her planet?
I have an idea, it's not even on your list.
What is it? Tell me.
You're talking about,
By the way, because of Halloween, you need to identify yourself, right? Yeah, please identify yourself.
Okay.
This is actually a public meeting.
I'm a snowbird from Castaway Cove. Castaway Cove.
That's in this state?
It's in Vero Beach.
And
It's
your name?
within the town limits of Vero
And your
Beach.
name is?
It's, my name is Michael, last name is Belanja. And I have a home on Cape Cod, but I'm a resident here for the last 7 years. So, One of the things that was mentioned is that this is supposed to be a county-wide thought process. And one of the big unsolved problems that the county has is that people from the county like to come to the beach side. They like to go on Ocean View Avenue and Cardinal Drive, and they like to enjoy what we have over there and shop at all the shops. But what happens is the parking spaces are largely taken up by the staff, by the retail staff, by the restaurant staff, the hotel staff, because there's insufficient parking for the staff. So what hasn't been mentioned here is, what I would propose is Florida-type low sun-sheltered parking, specifically allocated to the staff. For the restaurants on the beach side, the hotels on the beach side, the retail on the beach side, and all of the available parking spaces are now available from the county, and the people that have their wish to go and enjoy the beach or go and shop at the shops. There will be parking spaces. If we allocate all of the staff with little barcodes or whatever, it's a simple little thing, and have allocated parking, and there's plenty of space for the simple, sort of Florida low shaded parking. Tin roof, those wonderful tin roofs.
Are you proposing this for this side, for the employees here,
for
the staff, the other side?
For this side. And shuttle buses, we already have shuttle buses, we already have the routes for shuttle buses. All we would have to do is have the shuttle buses actually scheduled according to the staff volume needs by the hour or by the quarter hour, and you eliminate the need for parking meters, which would solve the problem anyway. And you end up with a very, very fluid little shuttle bus service every quarter of the hour, and then, between 7 and 11, you have many more buses.
Again, I think we should certainly try that.
And you didn't have it on your list at all. That's why I mentioned it.
Oh, no, that's a good idea.
Originally I didn't have anything on my list. So, okay, just one thing I want to say. Don't get on me because I haven't had that idea, because I get ideas when you give me ideas. That's a management idea. That's a very, very good one, and I think we'll put it in. Okay, for the shuttle bus, a lot of parts have to work, including that the bosses of the employees have to actually play ball on this. Because even at Seaside, which is it's fantastically expensive retail, the employees, the owners can't manage their employees. They cheat all the time about everything. But we can put it in. There's certainly enough parking here, okay, for that to happen. We'll just draw it. So done. What else? Yes. I'm going to start in the back. Sorry, I usually have to have it because they get very nervous. Okay. Yes, the gentleman furthest back. Yes.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
so I'm Larry, recently from DC Collins West Journal. I'll speak loud. I have a question for you. The affordable housing piece of this, how are the people from there going to get across the street? And then, which leads to the question about the employee parking. Would that be a spot for the employee parking?
That could be.
So how would you get across the street?
Okay, well, I don't want one thing to preclude the other, okay? Because actually, you can have plenty of parking on this side. Actually, remember, we have a huge amount on this side. This is a huge amount of parking. And if we just add one deck, it's an overwhelming amount of parking. So we don't have a parking problem. I think we need to disentangle the two. How these people are going to cross the street is probably like normal. Everybody crosses the street. It's just nothing. It's just something that you shouldn't. In fact, if you want to have parking there, I don't know how to say this. It's just not a good place for a parking garage because of the bridge. If you just keep it on the ground and have red lights and everything, most people, you might lose some customers, but not that many.
Okay, I'm aware of that. Okay, I want to say one thing. Okay, I'm not killing any ideas. You understand that? Okay, I understand. You can kill it later.
Could you come up, because it's public record. Is ever going to...
Oh, okay.
Please come up.
Come up here.
Fine, thank you.
Okay, would you like to? I'll just repeat what you said, that it's not a good site because it has a power plant in the back, and because, and the other one was, well, they should really get a decent enough salary to find a place to live, right? I agree with that one in particular, but it's not in my toolkit to raise the salaries of the school board. It is in my toolkit to provide housing for them, but that's okay. So anyway,
And in terms of actually, if you put an idea, I draw it. If you try to kill it, I won't. You kill it later. That's what the public process is about.
Thanks. Hi. My name is Bob Dakin. I live on Ladybug Lane in Old Greenmore. I'm new to Vero Beach, and I've just been here 2 years. I moved into a property that has a double lot, and so I can relate to a lot of what's being discussed here, that I very easily could have taken my 60-year-old home, torn it down, and built a larger house that really didn't fit into what I really felt was Old Greenmore and Vero Beach. And I have 14 gorgeous live oaks on the property that twice a month we get wedding parties, graduation, all sorts of people coming to take pictures. So I can understand the beauty of all this. I have two questions and kind of a comment. And I did go and look at the Power Center on Saturday during the open house, which was nice to see it. Has there been an estimate that has been done to demolish it? And what that cost would be. I ask that question just because I have opened stores around the world in 64 countries and have seen a lot of different mixed-use places around the world. So they want sometimes a cleaner slate, and that might be something that we may have to fall back and consider before someone would want to come in and build, just because of what the cost might be of renovating that particular property. So that's question number one.
You won't get an estimate for demolition here, Ms. Charrette. It's very elaborate, and I wouldn't trust it anyway. But bear in mind that actually the modifications I'm proposing is just to put a wooden floor over the existing system to enclose the machinery and to build the hotel as a new building. We're keeping it as it is. There's very little construction that's renovation. We're basically leaving it. And I expect that the cost of, I don't know what the cost of demolition will be.
And I guess the other comment that I have is that this is really a project for the next generation. It's really for our kids. And understanding that, I like the idea of housing for teachers. I think there also needs to be housing for nurses and medical care.
40 jobs.
And there's some of those around as well. Coming over the bridge into Vero Beach, which really speaks for what it is, we have an opportunity to make that as gorgeous and as beautiful as we possibly can. And I know there's been a lot of comments on the water towers and the power plant. And personal opinion here, but I go over it probably 10 or 12 times a day, and you've probably heard this before. It is less than aesthetic in regards to the look of it. And I think we had the opportunity to make that gateway to Vero Beach just be spectacular. And we really need the input of, no disrespect, I'm 65, but the 25, 30, 40, 45 who are going to be the customers of tomorrow to really understand what that aesthetics might be. But I appreciate having these forums for us to be able to communicate it.
How many people in that age group are here? Very young.
There have been very few coming in. Generally, I think it's fair to say that they're very positive to the keeping of it and the coolness of it and everything. But there are too few of you coming in. We are having a meeting tomorrow at the Walking Tree. Wednesday at the Walking Tree, where they tend to hang out. And we'll see what, we're trying to gather them there to see what they say. But the ones that come in do like it, actually. They understand it. Their style is called steampunk, and they totally get it. That's the next thing. And if you know, if you're in retail, you know, Roman and Williams are the architects of just the coolest hotels these days, and they actually create an industrial look that then they inhabit.
I guess on one note, I know that you've been referencing whether it be Charleston or the jail up in Boston, which had a great facade outside. I would just encourage us to look at some things on a worldwide basis, because there's some spectacular redevelopments around the world that we should have some vision or some exposure to, that have taken things and made them into wonderful spaces, and to not limit ourselves to just what's going on in America, because quite frankly, a lot of the developments in America are under siege because of what's going on with commerce. So we need to look at really creating a community and something that will engage the community rather than just a pure sense of whether restaurants will survive or stores will survive, but something that's a community engagement. Thank you.
Just one thing, because I have to.
You mustn't assume that I don't know those projects that whole worldwide. You must not assume that.
Did not
When you
assume
mention
that.
a park, I know it. When you've seen it, I know it, I know it, I know it, and if I don't know it tonight, I know it tomorrow. So just give me it, and I'll look it up.
And-
But the implication that somehow I can look outside the United States, a third of my work is elsewhere in the world.
Okay, respectfully, I just mentioned that because I didn't hear any reference to it as well.
Well, that's because Vero Beach is allergic to any
Place that isn't Vero Beach, I was told not to even mention Miami. And if I mention Paris, I'm sunken out of here. And that's what I've been asked to do. Okay, so just don't wear Vero Beach and don't bring anything else up.
My name's Hans Van Zonneveld. I grew up in Vero Beach. I've been around here forever. There's 2 points I want to make. One, putting a city hall on the most valuable piece of property that's available in the city doesn't make any sense. The other one is the city should stay out of the putting high housing and low-cost housing. If there's a strong enough demand, there are plenty of developers who will step in and build it within the community in one place or another. The city shouldn't get into financing school teachers and other stuff like that. It just doesn't make sense. That property on the other side can be used for a number of other uses besides housing. If you go west of there, you have the old Rockridge subdivision. And if you put something nice on that corner, and the whole thing, and all of a sudden, Rockridge gets redeveloped, and that's important. That's all I'm going to say.
This one thing, I agree with you. The city would do a horrible job with housing.
This was to be sold to a developer, private developer, on the condition of the program.
We don't need to finance private development.
You don't need to finance it, they pay.
Excuse me, you're putting words in my mouth. No public-private partnerships, none.
That's not what I'm saying. There are 50 other sites in the county that can take care of this.
And why is it happening?
Because the city has been in the housing business, doesn't plan to.
And here.
He says the city is not in the housing business, it doesn't plan. That doesn't make sense. You don't want them to be in the housing business.
Correct.
Okay? By the way, this is just one of the 3 options there. You can have, so far you've come up with a parking garage, the housing, and the shopping center. And we could add easily an office building as well. Okay? None of the 3 but the housing is a public utility to one of the problems you have in the city. So, but there are multiple ideas. Okay, there are multiple ideas, and I agree. I want to be very clear. I don't think there should be public-private partnerships, and I do not think that actually the city should be in the housing business. So we're actually in 100% agreement. Yes.
Hi, I'm Paul Sullivan. I guess you would call me a snowbird. I'm here 3 months, sometimes plus. Live in a condo. I love the fact that I can get to the beach in less than 15 minutes. And I don't see this thing as a threat, but I see it as another opportunity. I'm also an artist. And I think I can speak, even though I'm 76, I think I can speak to those under 40. I would love to see, by the way, I love the power plant. The first time I saw it, I started taking pictures of it and decided I wanted to do a painting of it. I'm busy painting other things and doing, but one day I will. But I would love to see a windward solution, a bushward solution to that power plant. I look at it as a fantastic canvas. And I think a hotel is a great idea called the Mural. And every 6 months, the whole thing changes. And there are enough crews, it would be a sensational tourist attraction. The inside of the power plant, the Tate Museum in London has the old Tate. You take a boat ride to the new Tate. What is the new Tate? It was a power plant.
With a room just like that, by the way, right?
Exactly,
like that.
exactly. With incredible sculptures inside, beautiful paintings. That's the new Tate. The Boston Contemporary Museum of Art. You take a boat ride from that, which is on the waterfront, from there, or like our Vero Beach Museum, which is one of the best small museums in the world, I might add. We take a boat ride from there, from the park there, right across to the power plant as an extension of the museum. The hotel is there. It would be a wonderful tourist attraction. I love everything else you were talking about. I don't know about moving the municipal building, but everything is open as far as I'm concerned.
Let me ask you a question.
Just make it look before you leave.
Using the cafe as a canvas.
Don't use the word graffiti.
Well, there's something that
It's the largest in the world.
there's something happening now is called digital graffiti, which is actually art that is made in computers and projected. It only exists electronically, and you can have a show every night. That's incredible. Yeah, and you don't have to even get up and swing around.
I was talking to people in the Bahamas when they put up Bahamas, and one of the things they asked was, could I digitally produce what I do and put it on the building?
Well, here's another thing. For example, another idea for the tanks on the other side. Those are huge canvases. Huge canvases. Okay? If you do not want to do anything with them, they're still some of the world's greatest projection screens. Just put digital graffiti on the outside, and you would have probably one of the prime art places in the world without converting it to City Hall.
Hi, I'm Hugh Aaron. I live in unincorporated Indian County. Thanks a lot. It's a great presentation. I'm really enjoying it. I have a somewhat negative question, unfortunately. Can you all hear me? So about a month ago, Jim Sullivan, who's the executive director of Harbor Branch, kicked off this year's Ocean Science lecture series with a sort of update on what's happening with marine science. And at the end of the presentation, he was asked if they had given any consideration to how much longer the Harbor Branch site had. It's, you know it? It's about 10 miles south of here. It's very similar situation to this site on the western side of the dune. And Jim's answer, and of course, he'd be the first one to acknowledge there's a lot of lack of clarity with respect to what's happening in terms of sea level rise. But he said they thought about 2050. In essence, he was saying he thought that site was no longer usable as of about 2050. And I'm curious, in the process, are you guys giving any thought to that? Or is it like traffic? Is it just something you got to say, well, we'll get 30 good years out of it?
Well, actually, it's worse. My wife teaches that at the University of Miami. She teaches climate change, and she knows exactly the inches per year. And in 2050, she would probably say that you have to put galoshes on 3 times a year and just get out of the way and wash your car properly 3 times a year. In other words, not much. But she would also say that within 5 years, you won't get insurance.
Yeah, Jim referenced that.
Right, and what actually is killing real estate in Miami Beach is insurance, not the actual flooding, which is negligible. Because we've been flooding since 1960, little bits. And so the flooding we're used to, the insurance not being able to, you know, let's say it just burdens the apartments in the Art Deco district horribly. The fact that the insurance has gone high and the potential of not getting it at all, which means you have to pay cash because there's no mortgage. And I think we have to fear terribly that situation. I would say that unless the city self-insures, we should build buildings that actually are the kind that you can close out. You know, the hotel, of course, would be elevated. Whatever we build in the power plant, that first floor, no proposal we made uses the first floor. Okay, we're always above, and the apartment across the way is not on the first floor. But the building that does have to be underground, which is this inexpensive building made out of hardwoods, and hopefully without insulation, which is mildew, should just be what I call a building that can go for a swim. One of the old Florida buildings. So that's, I think we have to actually be very clear about the problem, and it's sooner than you think. Even though the science, by the way, it's not the science is not certain. You know who's certain? The insurance companies are certain. That's what we're already experiencing tonight.
So yes, we have to be absolutely careful.
My name is Brooke Malone, Vero Beach resident. I am the owner, one of the owners of Walking Tree Brewery, so the Charrette is there on Wednesday. I'm hoping I can bring a lot of younger people. I'm a recreation commissioner for the city. I also sit on the Vero Beach Skate Park Alliance and the Vero Beach Mural Project, so huge advocate for art. I have to say, this is not necessarily for you, but there's a lot of Big Blue is an eyesore. I think I'm at the top level, age-wise, of a demographic that says, no, it's absolutely gorgeous and we love it and we want to do whatever we can to save it. So I really appreciate the fact that you're trying to bring some vision and salvage the structure. As an artist, it must be really hard. You've got broad shoulders to kind of go through all of this. But my address is more to the steering committee and to the city council members. In order to have public play spaces represented on this property at all, you're bound by Florida Statute 316.0085, which doesn't indemnify the city in regards to damages. And Mr. Duani, the plans that you have there in regards to public play spaces, if they are offloaded or given responsibility to someone else, that will also fall in line that they are to insure them. And one of the things that I would love to see in one of these sketches that you produce, and I know that on Wednesday night you're probably going to get a lot more, and maybe even potentially for that other portion of the property, is an approach where some of this land stays within city, within recreation, and provides not just a skate park. Of course, I'm a huge advocate for a skate park, and there's a skate park on that plan, and I'm mind blown and so grateful. But there are other types of urban play spaces that we need, parkour, adult interaction, not just running on the beach and playing tennis, but there's more aggressive types of playgrounds that kids can interact with, but adults can as well. And I would love to see an approach where those play spaces are possibly integrated and potentially removed from the center of the facility. The question that I ask is in regards to the Youth Sailing Foundation, which the Skate Park Alliance is meeting with on Thursday to figure out how we can partner better, is you mentioned they want to have a building with a restaurant.
They gave us
an idea. So
there's not an idea. They gave us a whole plan.
Okay, so I would assume the idea is for potentially income generation. It seems to me that, and we'll talk with them, but maybe it'd be better served to stay within their specialty, which is watercraft operation, and have outfitters. They could. We're losing one. Our outfitter on Royal Palm Point is literally closing down this month, and to have boat rentals and kayak rentals and stand-up paddle boards and do a lot more than just sailing. But if we could get them to the other side of the property and expand that and allocate a backside of that structure, you know, what you did for those water tanks is beautiful. It's really, it doesn't have to be City Hall, it could be anything. It could be the aquarium, it could be an art museum, it could be, you know, a dance hall, it could be a restaurant, you could do anything you wanted with it. But to do something neat like that and incorporate recreation land still that stays within the hold of the city that people are willing to assume responsibility for so that it can stay underneath those statutes so that it doesn't be insured. Those play spaces being insured by Youth Sailing Foundation, by a restaurant, or by a hotel will be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's why they shut down and they fail over and over again.
Thank you. Okay. Does everybody understand? it's much easier for a city to insure a public park, because they're insuring over
26 public parks, and yet with people tripping every week, that actually would offload into an organization that would then have to pay an awful lot of insurance for that kind of thing. So, yeah, I think that actually most of this land should be leased. Should be just ground leased to the developers. You regain some power over it.
You just answered one of my questions. Hi, I'm Lee Castletine. I work at the Indian River Chamber, but I'm also a city resident. And thank you for doing all this. This is great. I love the idea for the PowerPoint. I love that. I just have a quick question. The proposed housing over on the west side of Indian River, so how many units do you think that could hold?
In America, density is parking. You put the cars in a nice humane way, you count them, divide by 2 investor units. We started with the cars, counted, it was 39. 39 units of 1,000 square feet, which is average 2-bedroom. Okay, and that's just a very quick thing we started a couple of hours ago. Just to have something you can get your teeth on, 39 units. By the way, the hospital has 40 jobs unfilled. Okay, already, so the hospital could actually do this for their own staff. We have a crisis here that is actually arguably of greater importance than anything that we're talking about, which is that you don't have housing for the people who serve you. Not my job, but it can be. If you ask me to help you solve it, you've got the land, I've got the skill. If you have the will, we can actually really put a dent on that.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, council and committee. For the record, Ken Daigle, I am a city resident. I had a question, sir. You had mentioned 21 million. Is that 21 million that you talked about for use on that property? Could you please have some clarity on that?
Thanks, Ken. Money Falls City Manager. When we talked about the financing this morning, City of Lawson made the point that the city had $21 million in reserves left over from the sale of electric utility. She didn't mean to imply, if anyone took it that way, that the $21 million was committed to the development of this property. Her statement was the city had $21 million. The council had access to use that money for any kind of infrastructure projects they choose, from stormwater to use on this project to solving parking solutions on the beach and downtown. All different kinds of ideas. It was just that money was there as a way to get started. Andreas then came back and had ideas of selling the property on the west side to generate income to help with the development. So it was to start off the discussion as to what could be done, how we could get there. The city's main point was, and Andres brought it up again tonight, getting the initial capital with sale of property, developers come in, land leases is one thing, but the long-term operational is another thing that the city has to provide.
Hi there, I'm Susan Salovey, and I have really enjoyed this presentation. I felt I wanted to come up to represent that 97% vote for the environment, because I haven't heard about any natural spaces yet. And they may be there, but I just haven't heard of what's happening to let land just be land and let some creatures just be creatures and let some people not develop. I just don't understand that.
Okay, what happens is
This land is completely denatured and compacted. Nature's gone, except at the edges. It's just gone. It's tamped down, poisoned, everything. And then unpoisoned. No, could you go back to the plant? I'd like to show where the nature is. Okay, what we could do realistically for nature is the pollen. Okay, there is, I don't know whether whether I mentioned that this is a park that consists of berms that go up and down, so you can look over the mangroves that would be supplemented at the edges. So where mangroves want to be is the edges. The problem with mangroves in parks is that you can't see from the ground. So since we want the mangroves that have already taken hold to continue and become more, thicken out, we've actually created a park that goes up and down. Over on this side, there's already mangroves have also come up and actually made a very beautiful canal, which is just gorgeous at the moment. And of course, that's being maintained. And I think it's the basis of a natural park for the mangrove. Also, there was a request earlier to have the water, the stormwater processed in an environmental way, with natural plants and so forth. And the engineers came in and said, it's futile, there's not enough land to process even the nearby water, okay, the nearby stormwater. But nevertheless, we can create, and part of this is here, we can create wetlands to demonstrate to the kids educationally that something can be done. Okay, so it's a tiny percentage of the problem, and the pipes are not going the right way. They're going somewhere else, and there's a good place, and everybody's been thinking about it. Okay, there's a lot of thinking about where it goes. But we can perhaps, so there won't be a real solution, but there can be a demonstration project that we do have built in. Okay, so that's what's happening. So really it's the edges, and we're looking forward to that. And in fact, I am a little bit scared of mangroves in public parks, because if you go to Fort Myers, you can't see the river. If you go to the water, we did the plan for Fort Myers, and you have to put a sign here, the river is over there, because the mangroves have grown. So this time around, instead of making a waterfront plaza that is in waterfront, we're actually going to let people get up. And which works very well. The hotel does have everything's built up anyway, so you're above the mangroves. Okay. And by the way, I don't know, perhaps you know, but I did get some pushback on the mangroves and no-see-ums. Don't you know that mangroves have no-see-ums? And then somebody said, yeah, but mulberry bushes deal with the no-see-ums. So you can look forward to mangroves and mulberry bushes as a kid, okay? What's great about these is that whenever you mention a problem, usually somebody has a solution somewhere.
Just two more comments. Just keep it brief, please, because we want to get this closed up.
Did you already speak to on record about the height of the building and the legal height for the zone?
Yeah, I can talk about a little bit about
It was last meeting, right?
Right.
It was this meeting. Because the height is up.
The existing building is 60 feet. This is industrial zoning, which does allow, this is one of our 3 districts that does allow up to 50 feet as a height limit. And we do measure the height limit from what's called, whatever's the highest point, either the crown of the road or the base floor flood elevation. So actually this building's probably about maybe 5 or 6 feet over the height limit because this is, as we've talked about, is down in the floodplain. And then we do allow up to 50 feet, 15 feet of embellishment too. So,
That's scary.
Yeah.
But anyway, can I show the site across the street? What's the height there? Is that the same?
that actually would be 35 feet because that is a commercial zoning district.
No embellishment.
35 feet, but you still can get the 15-foot embellishment.
The embellishment is a pitched roof.
The pitch roof, the parapet wall.
It's a non-habitable space.
No, you got it. And our code is very specific when it comes to measuring height. One of the few areas that's specific.
Yes, sir, I'm Tom Clark. I actually worked 23 years at the power plant, retired in 2012. Had a great time there. But one of my questions was, you were looking at rooftop dining.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering if you know if the roof can really support it. And I say that from working there. One elevator goes to the 5th floor, not all the way to the roof. I don't know if it have to be ADA compliant to get up there. There's no railing around the roof. The sides are only 1 foot to 2 foot high. If it'd be feasible to somehow get into the interior beams to put railing around it. The roof is also tar and gravel, which would not be the nicest to get around for somebody in a wheelchair or something. And I say that because the roof is concrete panels that are real thin, and there's exhaust fans up there. At one time, we were, had a motor lift up there to get a fan off, and one wheel of the motor lift went right through the sill. So, I just don't know if you've done a study on that yet to know if it would even be feasible.
Well, no, we have not, but we have done a study. And of course, the study would be done. I'm glad you told me about the panels because the structures are the structural grid is very tight in that area. And so just looking at the beams, that's tight. I assumed that it was pretty good up there for live loads of people. But if the panels are weak, then you're right. It would of course require two stairs and 2 elevators, which would be put on the outside. But we'll certainly have to do that study. You're absolutely right. We'll have to do that.
They'll add a lot of leaks last year. Roof had been done up to over 20 years.
Yeah, but that's normal for all flat roofs of the period. They're also in that point. But I have to say, the reason I don't know better is that somebody lost all the drawings. Do you have to know where they are? I've been begging for some drawings. We've had to create our own drawings from photographs. We have no idea what the roof was made out of. Because how can you use the drawings if it's only that large? I don't know. And actually, I know that every chicken shed in Vero is filed, right? So, how you can lose a power plant, I don't know.
Hi, my name is Mary John Blevins. I'm a resident of Vero Beach. And my question is about the issue of housing. So I apologize if I missed something from earlier, but I was wondering about the possibility of having mixed-use buildings on the site with the power plant, and also have you considered a variety of housing types, not just the apartment building across the street? And like a variety of, for affordability and things like that.
Okay. Actually, I haven't because nobody's asked. And I'm responding to the ask. Okay? So, we did have somebody ask about the 40 unfilled jobs at the hospital and school teachers that are being poached by adjacent school districts and the policemen, although I just heard about the policemen, I don't know for a fact. We're not talking about affordable housing in the sense of just simply affordable housing that every American city needs. As it happens, my principal research right now is how do we get housing for young people in high job areas like Silicon Valley? Okay, because they're commuting 2 hours and pay $3,500 a month to live in one room in a ranch house that they're taking away. And I just came directly now from the International Building Show in Las Vegas. I just came directly. And I designed a couple of tiny houses that were actually very comfortable and not for homeless, but actually for kids with master's degrees. And they're specifically designed to go on parking lots, of which there are many. And they're specifically designed to be temporary. The interesting thing is that there are many, many parking lots in America that are waiting for a high-rise. But they're still right there in downtown Houston, downtown everywhere, right next to Apple headquarters. In fact, Milpitas, which is a town, this is incredible, Milpitas, which is a town surrounded by Silicon Valley, has something 1.5 size as a parking lot, 1.5 times the size of a football field, waiting for the rapid transit station to come to San Francisco sometime. And so the guy from Milpitas says, could we have tiny houses there? So long as they give you notice of 6 months to pull them out. So we're talking about that. And actually the Secretary of HUD, Dr. Carson, came to see it. And in fact, he said, this is so important that I'll call you at 11:15 tomorrow, so I'll be stepping out of the meeting. But this thing is a huge crisis. Like, what do we do with the kids with master's degrees, who are not, they've done their job, they've gotten their master's degrees and still can't find housing, and yet people can't commit to the housing. But there is open land everywhere. And so my response to you would be to take this here, for which no one has had an idea yet, and say, what would happen if we actually put tiny houses here on a condition that when the city, if the city somehow has a problem with them or has a better idea. Trying to remember, I'm working against no idea at all. There is no idea. So what if we put tiny houses here experimentally, half a dozen, if it works out great, if it doesn't work, we pull them out. And then we have 3 dozen on the condition that you get to pull them out. You see, and that's really, what you're mentioning is happening everywhere in America. There's a generation, by the way, there are people in my office with perfectly good master's degrees that have no hope of getting housing. And, that's everywhere now. And so the answers have to be radical and open-minded. So that's actually my principal interest, is how do we do that? What?
Mixed use.
Well, mixed use above, I've done a lot of that. Apartments above shops are more expensive, unfortunately, than just shops and just apartments. So when we do mixed use, we do it side by side. Yes, the site has shops and apartments, but they're not on top of each other because it's very inefficient structurally. And by the way, the bankers don't like it at all. Oh, I don't understand this. It's got 2 parts. I can't possibly give you a mortgage. So what happens is that we now do what we call horizontal mixed use instead of vertical. Okay, so yeah, but I'm going to look into that. I was hoping somebody would ask, actually.
I have a master's degree and can't find housing.
Oh my God! Well, you have to see our tiny house. Actually, I can post it for you. And the interesting thing, most tiny houses are for the country. You always see them in photographs and in nature with big sliding glass doors. The one we designed are for cities, and they're specifically for parking lots. So they're very private. They're cozy, private, and safe because they're for parking lots. And the number of underutilized parking lots are increasing in America tremendously because of the collapse of retail. Right? And by the way, it's already drained. The parking lot is drained, denatured, it has electricity and water. So plugging them in is nothing. But they have to be very pleasant, not where you sort of packed away because society hates you. It's got to be, they're part of they're very, they're designed specifically to be very nice, not
What I'd like to do is turn it over to Vicki. I don't know if the steering committee has any comments. I know we're kind of running over, so keep it brief.
So I just have a quick question on the tiny homes, and by the way, we've been talking about them at the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, which is an advisory board to Indian River County. So I'm familiar with them. We have been talking about them. Did you say that there are some that go in a parking lot? That's what I thought you said. I'm thinking Indian River Mall. Wow. We could have, could have its own zip code. Thank you.
That's exactly what it's for. Is there a dead mall? They assume this is a mall that has extra parking. Absolutely. And by the way, some of the people underestimate how unaffordable the housing is. How affordable the housing is.
The footings are murder. Okay, the footings and the thing and the pipes. These things are actually run, they use the parking lot and they're run on a marina technology. So actually the pipes actually sit right on the asphalt. You don't have to cut up the asphalt and you cover them with gravel. And they're just very light. And actually when they go, you can actually pull out the whole infrastructure and take it away. It's what the movie industry uses. Have you seen those encampments and make them? Yeah, so we're hacking the movie industry. And the other thing that's so interesting, by the way, they're permitted by the Department of Motor Vehicles. Okay. And as a result of that, they're actually equipment. So you can depreciate it in 1 year, which is incredible. Right now, equipment is a 1 year depreciation, so actually it's a huge subsidy. So it's perfect for these kids. The taxes are low, yeah, they don't pay too many taxes.
I'm sure you know too that with malls, repurposing, this has already been done in a number of cities around the country, that they've taken it and made part of the mall into residential of different kinds, and also included parks, but still had some retail, so a mall can become multi-purpose. It's already been done in many different cities. Thank you.
Thank you again for coming tonight. I feel like every session we learn more and more, and thank you for your input very much. And I'm calling this meeting